How do you think the biggest car theft in history happened? Like this? I don't think so. Or could it have happened like this? None of the videos you've watched even come close to the biggest car theft ever committed in history. Because the largest car theft ever recorded cost exactly $322 million, and no force was used during the theft. Before we get into the details, please don't forget to like the video if you enjoy it and leave a comment if you have one. Now, let's take a look at the details of this interesting incident. Today, Volvo vehicles, considered among the most durable cars in the world, are sold for millions of dollars. Back in the 1970s, while the Volvo 144 was still in production, the Swedish automaker began expanding into what was believed to be a promising new market, leading the way among other domestic companies. These cars, found in almost every country in the world, were also introduced to the North Korean market. In the mid-1970s, Swedish companies signed major trade agreements with North Korea. Under these agreements, tons of Swedish-made industrial machinery, including heavy mining equipment and 1,000 Volvo cars, were shipped to North Korea. A senior researcher at the Brookings Institution explained at the time that things weren't actually that bad back then. After the Korean War, the economy had been rebuilt and had become a functioning industrial state. It was still heavily dependent on aid, but under those conditions, it didn't seem like such a bad gamble. Importers were rubbing their hands together, believing there was a lot of money to be made in North Korea's developing economy. But things didn't go very well for them. Sweden shipped more than $70 million worth of goods. Investments in North Korea grew to such an extent that Swedish companies and some politicians even encouraged the government to send a diplomat there. As a result, in 1975, Sweden became the first Western country to open an embassy in Pyongyang. However, there was a problem. North Korea wasn't very good at doing business, especially once things went beyond its borders, where everything became even more complicated. Senior Swedish diplomat Erik Cornell said, "They asked me whether I wanted to open an embassy in North Korea. I said yes." Now 92 years old, Cornell joined the ministry in 1958 and arrived in North Korea in 1975 under Kim Il-sung's leadership. It was a very pleasant country, snowy, windy, cold, and when we arrived in Pyongyang, we had to start from scratch, Cornell says. He served as a diplomat at the embassy until 1977. The capital was deserted. You couldn't go to a cafe or a restaurant because there were none, he says. Sometimes, the only thing he could do was take short drives in a Volvo. That was simply the way life was, Cornell adds. In fact, he had been tasked with understanding North Korea's economic situation, and it quickly became clear that the numbers weren't improving. North Korea wasn't paying its debts. It had essentially taken the cars and all the machinery and refused to pay. The next leader, who was the son of the previous leader, continued the same policy of not paying for the cars and debts, until he passed away in 2011. So who was the next leader? Hello there, yes, this guy you often see on social media and about whom there are many speculations. He also continued the same policy. More than 40 years later, to this day, the government has still not paid for this equipment or the 1,000 Volvos. Some of the Volvo cars sent to North Korea occasionally appear in rare photographs taken in the country. In fact, in 2016, the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang tweeted that one of the Volvos purchased in 1974, never paid for, was still operating as a taxi and had nearly reached 500,000 kilometers, subtly referencing North Korea's unpaid debt to Sweden. Volvo had made a smart decision by insuring itself during the export process. According to the Swedish Export Credit Agency, which ensured the payments, North Korea's debt to Sweden has grown over the years, with interest, to $322 million. Sweden continues to send reminders twice a year, but North Korea still has not paid. And this incident has gone down in history as the biggest car theft ever. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like the video and, if possible, subscribe.